Our good friends over at FanDuel have the Miami and Florida game and a little bit of a spread that maybe I wasn't anticipating. But regardless, Miami versus Florida this weekend, as Florida is coming off 2 straight losses. Miami coming off of a couple of 3 dominating performances. When you look at Miami versus Florida, game day will also be there. Your thoughts as we preview this game?
Well, the first thing that we've talked about a lot with this Miami program, Blake, is that they're doing everything right. They're doing everything right. There is a new attention to detail, and they look like the most balanced team in college football. Carson Beck is getting a lot more love nationally because he's playing more freely. He's playing in the right situation. He doesn't have to do everything. They've got a dominant physical run game with a great offensive line, a overwhelming defensive line. And Blake, they're stepping into a matchup against a Florida team that is past desperate. Last week, we talked about how Florida really needed to show something, that they needed, with their backs up against the wall, with nothing to do but to swing to get their way out of it. They had to beat LSU, and they lost. They imploded. DJ Lagway, 5 interceptions. Blake, the main theme for me with this game, man, is Florida going to put up a fight? Is Florida going to bounce back into some sort of a way that they can shock the college football world? And I don't think that they can, because they showed me last week they didn't have it in them.
Well, and to bring on to that, my question is how does DJ Lagway respond? Yeah. You threw 5 interceptions last week. I mean, Joe, I don't even know how to really characterize the performance, really. I mean, I think it's worse than the 5 interceptions, if I'm being honest. But I think a couple of things. One, LSU showed him a lot of things and gave him other things post-snap that he was just in a blender. And then he was just seeing ghosts after that. How do they respond? You know, last year, it's interesting. The LSU game was the game that, you know, they came out before and said, listen, we're keeping Billy Napier till 2025. They came out and beat LSU. They beat Ole Miss. They wind up rallying off 5 straight wins and then started the season 1-0. 6 straight wins for this Florida program. And then they lose to South Florida, who Miami just absolutely throttled. Now, I think the game was a little bit closer than people want to indicate in the final score. And then, Joe, to be honest with you, offensively, they got dominated. There was absolutely nothing that they could do. LSU dominated every single aspect of that game. And I think that you bring up the interesting question of not what Florida will do going into this game from an X's and O's standpoint. What are you going to do from a morale standpoint? Are you going to mail it in? And I do think that that's a massive question. But I do, and you're going to hate me for saying this, when I look at the game, I do think that this might be the best defensive line, just defensive line, not best defense, but from a talent standpoint, the best defensive line that Miami has seen. I think Caleb Banks coming into the season, and this being his first game last week, Joe, he was phenomenal.
But he's hurt.
He was, but that's what I'm saying. He came back and I was wondering, is he still hurt? Is he going to be conditioned? Brother, he dominated.
Caleb, but it's I don't mean to cut you off, but it sounds like he's not going to be. From what I was reading, it doesn't sound like he's going to be in this game. He re-injured the foot, and they're worried that he's not coming back.
Okay, well then that's a bigger. Okay, well I did not know that. Then that's a problem because that kid.
I'm going to double check. Right now.
Double check really quickly. But if that to sidebar that, then Joe, I'm not buying that. He was out there on the last play of the game, and he was not hurt. So I'm not buying it. Go ahead, say it.
This is an article posted 3 minutes ago from Billy Napier. Caleb re-injured his foot. Obviously, we'll have an injury report for you on Wednesday, but in general, it's great for him to be back out there. We'll report injuries on Wednesday night. So there's no clarity, but it sounds like the injury that he had going into the LSU game that he thought they were healed from, he re-aggravated it. So he might play, but he's still messed up at the current moment.
Even if he's hurt, he dominated. But regardless of that.
Yes, sorry.
No, I'm glad you said something because I didn't see that. I didn't know. All right. That D-line's still really good for Florida with or without him. Mm-hmm. And the defense is not a problem for them. I think their secondary is pretty good too, for what it's worth. Joe, I just think Miami's going to be able to lean on them on both lines of scrimmage, though. The physical style of play that Miami has, the way that they're dominating people up front, offense, defense. We talked about this last night. I think Ruben Bain might be the best defensive player in the country right now, the way that he's playing. Carson Beck, the interceptions need to have context to them for what it's worth from last week. I said that I think he would be my Heisman frontrunner right now if I had one. I just think Miami's on a different warpath right now. And it would take every ounce and muster from this Florida team to go into there and win this game. Because I think that the speed, the quarterback play, the running game, the way they defend the run, the way their secondary's been playing, Joe, I don't know if there's an area that Miami's just not flat out better than.
I think that's absolutely true. And I think that as talented as Florida's roster is, it's playing with a lot of deficiencies and issues. And I think a number of those issues are going to really cost them in this game. There's two areas where Miami is incredibly dominant going into this game that I think gives them not only an edge, but like a serious edge. They are 14th in the country in havoc rate allowed. I know we're 3 games into the season, so the context of these stats are not as robust as they typically would be if we're talking about it more midway into the year. But their offensive line has been tremendous. The stats show that they do not give up a lot of tackles for loss or sacks to opposing defensive lines. And that is with the first game that they played against Notre Dame, which is a pretty good unit. As you just said there, and Mario Cristobal talked about it today, that this is a roster loaded with NFL talent, and this is going to be the hardest challenge that they're going to see, especially on their D-line. Tyreek Sapp's a great player. But I really think that Miami offensive line is the better side in that matchup. The other area where I see an advantage for Miami is the fact that this season they are 10th in the country in EPA per rush, EPA per rush allowed. So they are not allowing opposing teams to generate really any explosive plays running the football. They have been downhill. They've been stout. They've been rallying to the football. I've said that time and time again. And we now have some numbers to really put context behind that. This Florida team, if DJ Lagway is having the problems that he's having, if Ball can't get going on the ground, it is going to be really, really rough sledding for them. They're going to have a really tough time.
Well, he had a tough time because it wasn't there for him. I mean, LSU, outside of the screens, Ball didn't do anything explosive.
And then the one play that was called back, too, with the silly penalty that they had.
Right. I mean, but that was a passing play. Mm-hmm. And to be real with you, it would have been called back the other way. They didn't even talk about the other flag. Joe, he's out of bounds for 50 yards. He literally runs out of bounds for 50 yards and then hops back in the middle. Yeah, I mean, okay, whatever. I'm not going there. Regardless, you want to know how someone gets lost? They run down the sidelines. That's how they get lost. Regardless of that, the reason they couldn't get things going is because LSU just said, Joe, I talked about this on Thursday, but even going into it, they literally went man coverage and then went zone and said, we're going to confuse the shit out of you, and they kept popping him with it. They did nothing special. They ran 5 plays, Joe. Did LSU defensively. 5. They were just showing him something and then backing out of it, and then Mansour DeLeone almost gets a pick. A.J. Halsey has the interception. Deshaun Spears baited him twice and picked it. This isn't – I don't mean this – look, LSU secondary made some elite plays, and I'm not saying they didn't because they 1,000% did. Joe, they took away the running game, and then when they had to go throw the ball for 40 times, he couldn't handle it. And he's a young quarterback. That shit like this is going to happen. Like, you would have thought that he had a worse you would have thought Arch Manning had a worse performance than DJ Lagway, and it's just clearly not the truth. But you get to a situation in a place where, Joe, I don't think they do that to him. They got to get him outside the pocket. They got to get him moving, but I don't think it's going to matter. What I would say for Florida, because, look, I still think that they have a chance here. You brought it up. They got to get ball downhill and go 3 yards in a cloud of dust and play time of possession and just get DJ on some couple of quick throws and then try to suck them up and then hit them deep. Pause. But you got to, because Billy continues to get in his own way. Joe, there were drives, and they keep getting in their own way. all of these touchdowns that they keep generating are getting called back for holdings. Billy runs the ball for 25 yards on 2 carries and then literally stops. I mean, like literally. I mean, the longest running play of the game you had, you didn't go back to it. I mean, you had a toss play that went for 9, and you didn't go back to it. One of the longest runs of the night. LSU clearly wasn't ready for it. Joe, this is where I see this game. Both teams have extreme talent on both lines of scrimmage. Florida is not as organized as Mario Cristobal in Miami. And I think this game, because it being a rivalry game, can be close early. But I think that Miami's just going to keep leaning on them and make them make mistakes. This is it, man. What do you think for Napier? I mean, this is it for me. Like, if you don't accomplish this week, it's over for me. The only thing I'd say is if DJ Lagway is the guy that we think that he is, he's going to respond and keep this one close.
And I think that's the kind of the key thing to talk about here. I've tried not to completely air out Lagway because I think he was thrown in the worst possible situation where you're throwing the ball way too much. When you're throwing too much, you're pressing. And when you're pressing, you're making mistakes. It happens to young quarterbacks all the time when their offense is struggling and they're playing up against good defenses. There is a path, knowing how physically talented this kid is, that he bounces back and he plays well. I don't think that automatically means that they win the game if he plays well. I think that where it is going to be really hard for Florida to win this game, Blake, is knowing the problems that were caused by LSU's secondary last week. And he's now got to turn around and go up against the Miami secondary. This Miami secondary has been one of the best in the country. I keep hyping up Heatherman and how he has taken all 4 of those new dudes and he's activated them. They're all playing really well together. This is a serious, serious challenge. Knowing what they already did to CJ Carr and the problems they caused for him at times, the problems that can now be caused for Lagway could make this an insurmountable obstacle for them to come out of this thing with a win. I just think that the odds are very, very thin, as they should be, knowing the trajectories that these two teams are on.
Joe, they have so much explosiveness as Florida at wide receiver, and they're not utilizing it. I mean, listen, I want to talk more about Miami and not make this all about Florida. I think they're going to be able to run the ball late because they're going to tire out this defensive line and they're going to get push. Stay with the running game. Carson Beck's played this team a lot of times. I think Carson Beck, who, by the way, threw 3 interceptions in this game last year, wants some revenge, and I don't think those interceptions happen again. I just think that this is going to be close early. Both teams are going to run the ball. There's a lot of talent. It's a rivalry game. And I do think that Florida expands this. I mean, Miami expands this one late and really puts it on them. Again, the only thing I would say is Miami fans and to people around the country that will listen to this, I got a close look and personal look at this Florida team this weekend. Joe, I don't care what you tell me. They got talent all over the place. That's the crazy thing about this. Is this coaching staff has done such a disservice for the amount of talent that they have. Carmani McClain was a walk-on. Remember the whole Carmani McClain?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Joe, Carmani McClain can play.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Dude, this kid can fly. He ran down Caden Durham. I mean, I'm not trying to make it bigger than what he ran him down. They got that's the thing with Billy that drives me crazy. Joe, they might have 3 first-round picks on their defense.
It's crazy that they couldn't. The whole way that we'd be talking about this team would be so different if they'd just beaten South Florida. Even if it was a close win that they had, it would have been fine.
They beat South Florida. Hey, look, you're winning a Baton Rouge against what might be the best defense in the country, and you couldn't overcome it.
Yeah. Our perspective on them would be completely different, but instead it feels inevitable that Miami covers that 7.5-point spread on FanDuel. Like, that's what this feels like.
Let me say this. That was Lagway's first start on the road, by the way.
That is forgotten.
So Baton Rouge, Death Valley, Charles Alexander's number being retired at halftime, arguably the best running back in LSU history, not named Leonard Fournette or Kevin Falk. And he wasn't coming in there and winning. And it's a completely different atmosphere. You're the one that they usually yell out for atmosphere. Miami and Hard Rock ain't Baton Rouge on a Saturday night. It just isn't. I mean,
I'll let Miami fans get mad.
Oh, let them. I will go. Listen.
I think that everyone's got to understand that Baton Rouge with 100,000 people is not the same thing as
please clip it. I will fight all day long against these Rudy Poos tomorrow if it comes to it. I don't care. Don't you dare.